Oh man, yeah, 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 yeah. I'm acting like I'm about to spit, but I don't got the bars to quit. No, that's what. I'm gonna get something off the dome one day. I ain't quite there yet. All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. What is down? What's up? What's down? What's all around? It's your friendly neighborhood, Marcus, brother Marcus here. Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. We just want to welcome you here and to Berean Bible Fellowship. Wanted to go through first some announcements, and then we'll go through some expectations. Next, we'll go through the review and then dive into the lesson from there. So, wanted to go through the announcements. So, we are currently still in the heart of war. So, the heart of war, the focus again is how can we focus on taking the distractions out of, or focus on not the distractions, but how can we focus on the men to where we can take those distractions out of the earthly realm. So we want to make sure that we're focusing on that, the heart of war, the heart of men. So making sure that they don't essentially go extinct. So that's what our focus is, and that's what we've been teaching on the past few weeks. We talked about the power of control last week, and we'll dive into those review in a moment. But go ahead and go to the next slide. Go ahead and follow us on our YouTube page at Berean Fellowship KC. You can also follow us on Facebook as well, or subscribe on YouTube and follow on Facebook. Facebook is at Berean Bible Fellowship Church. So that's where you can check out all of our live streams. That includes Wednesday live streams as well as Sunday live streams. This is our Sunday, or not Sunday, but our church schedule. So our Sunday morning huddle has been awesome. So those starts at 9. Sunday morning service that starts at 10 a.m. Praise rehearsal, praise team rehearsal is 5:30. Wednesday night prayer is 6:30, and then Wednesday night Bible study is at 7 o'clock. This right here, this is the event that you want to be. This is going to be a teaching seminar. So things are not what they seem. What is it? So what it is a teaching seminar. It is imperative that as many people as you can, guys can come to this. It's going to talk about where we are currently in the pandemic, as well as vital information to really just the next steps of what's to come and how we can prepare for those next steps as believers. So that is going to be Friday, July 23rd, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. and then Saturday, July 24th, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you have any questions, please contact 816-325-0568 for any further information. Now we're going to, I'm gonna go through some quick expectations, and then we're gonna dive into a video that's going to introduce the lesson, and then we'll start from there. So as far as expectations, so what you guys can expect from me, the speaker, as well as Pastor Walker when he comes up, is that we will give our perspective based on our experience aligned with the Word. So we're not just going to try to act like we are all that in a bag of chips or we know everything. We want to make sure that we are aligning what we say with the Word. From the audience, if you're in person, just ask to raise your hand. Then once we call on you, then we'll get you a mic so that way you can speak, and then just have an open mind, listen to others' perspectives. People online, you guys will love to hear questions from you, and we'll also take a moment to take the time to look through any questions or comments you guys have. Good to see you, Brother Robert, brother or Sister Malika, Sister Edie, and I think those are the people we have on there so far. So thank you so much for being on and involved. As far as questions for in person, if you guys keep those down to 30 to 60 seconds, so that way we can make sure that we are expeditious with the time frame. We want to make sure that we're respectful of the time. And lastly, participation. We'll just be asking a few questions for the people who are here, and then even on people online. If you guys want to chime in as well, then we'll also ask you guys some questions. So going through before the review, we're going to go ahead and play the video and then go through the review.
Tonight, all is not well at the White House. Inflation, record levels. Businesses, they can't find employees. More lockdowns are now imminent, even supported by the administration. A southern border, well, that's an unmitigated disaster. Violent crime is rising in almost every major city in this country. Russia is hacking critical supply lines each and every month. China is openly now threatening the United States, our military, and our allies. Iran is back to enriching uranium at an alarming rate, and the withdrawal from Afghanistan is a poorly planned debacle. Now we're leaving behind tons of arms and munitions for the Taliban. Now this administration is unraveling far faster than we even expected. And worst of all, no one knows who is in charge. As we told you earlier in the week, 57% now of Americans, they see what we've been talking about and few others have, and that is, and by the way, 58% of independents, even a third of Democrats see it, and so does America's enemies. The one thing that most agree on, it's definitely not Joe Biden running the show. And today, yet again, he struggled to get words out during his one and only publicly scheduled event. Such a tough schedule he has. Take a look.
We went for two reasons. One, to bring Osama bin Laden to the gates of hell, as I said at the time. The second reason was to eliminate al-Qaeda's capacity to deal with more attacks in the United States from that territory. We accomplished both of those objectives, period.
Just keep counting. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000. Maybe when you get to 10 1,000, Joe will speak. And by the way, Joe, you opposed the raid to get bin Laden. As I said earlier this week, I honestly can no longer laugh. I can't joke about Biden's cognitive struggles. Everyone can see he is in really bad shape. Our allies see it. Our enemies see it. The majority now of the American people, they're seeing it. And it's downright dangerous. Now things are so bad, Joe needs the help of no cards, even after briefings with his staff less than an hour prior. Now, Joe's not calling the shots. He's not making decisions. Instead, it appears that he's just trying to barely get through that one scheduled event a day. It is pathetic. And here's the next obvious question. Who is making the decisions? And who knew what and who knew what when about Joe's condition? For reference, let's take a look at Joe Biden. This is from 2012. You'll notice two things in this upcoming clip. One, Joe Biden brags about being against the bin Laden raid that took out the world's worst terrorist. And two, Joe Biden was, well, let's put it charitably, in a completely different cognitive state in 2012 than he is today.
Wow, that's all I gotta say is that's very troubling seeing, just reviewing that and seeing where we're at. But it's one thing to see that and to be troubled by it, but it's another thing to actually know what's coming. We are currently in the end times. It's imperative that we take this time to study. As a church, we've been studying the book of Revelation. We've been going through the signs of the end time. So we're really studying into this. So if you're not seeing those, we do have them on our previous Facebook Lives. But feel free to come in person as well to see those, because we're really trying to dive in, or we not trying to, we were really diving into those messages of the end time and what it means, how to prepare for it, and what to look for. So just be prepared for that. With that being said, we've reviewed some things last week regarding the power of control. So I'm gonna go through some things that we discussed last week, and then we're gonna dive into the lesson. So last week we talked about the power of oppression. We used the example of Genesis 3:1, how the serpent oppressed and twisted knowledge. So basically how he was able to use that oppression of the knowledge to twist it up to essentially trick Eve to what, so that way she can eat the fruit. I want to say apple because apple isn't, they don't say apple, but in the word, but twist up the fruit, or eat the fruit rather. So that was one of the first points. The second point was the control of the minds. To control the minds of people is power. So we gave a few examples of how in history people use information to control the minds of people. With that being said, does anyone either online or in person remember any of those examples that we used last week regarding how people in history control minds based on information? Any takers on that? Let's think about, I'll give you a quick little hints, I should say. Think about foreign countries. Talked about not quite language. It was a leader who used his influence and. So if you guys want to talk on that a little bit? I'm picking on my people who's in person right now. So, but you hitting it on the head. So that's the. Can you grab the mic real quick? No, you sounded good so far. Yeah, it's kind of snug in there. You just gotta pull it. There we go. And then just make sure you turn it on, and then we'll get it set up for you. You got it. I believe in you.
From what I remember, I believe it was Hitler. He was trying to get everyone to rise up and in power. He was trying to have power over the people's minds, to control them and keep them to get them to follow him, and then I guess take over the world, and keep them in oppression, keep them oppressed.
Yeah, that's exactly it right there. Good job. That's what I'm talking about. Clap it up. No, great job. So Hitler was one of the major examples we touched upon last week. We used him because he used his influence and power of control over people's minds, not like using powers or anything like that, but basically using his influence to control people's actions and things of that nature. Not to sound like spiritually spooky by any means, but using his words to control what he's saying and convey what he's saying. We also gave a few other examples, such as the medical apartheid, so the dark history over medical experiments, using, and that was presented from J. Marion Sims. We also talked about the Tuskegee Tuskegee experiments in regards to how they did the study of untreated syphilis amongst African American men from the years of 1932 through 1972. So how what they used, or the power of influence to control their minds in that degree. Additionally, we talked about eugenics. So does anyone remember what eugenics is? Anybody online? Let me see. If you got anybody online know what eugenics is?
You want to know?
Yeah, you definitely want to know. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna give it to you. Going once, going twice.
Yes.
You getting warmer?
Come on down, the price is right.
Oh yeah.
Well, Planned Parenthood derived from the science or the ideology of eugenics. Eugenics is, they consider it a science, but it's really an ideology that men came up with. It's a form of supremacy. It's a form of control. The gentleman thought that they practiced supremacy through ethnicity. They thought that Caucasians or certain ethnic groups were more superior, more intelligent, more resourceful than others. And if you was not of this caliber of a human being, you was considered less than. And they established traps and snares to get rid of the unproductive, the unfruitful, the unskillful, the unworthy, and we're seeing the perpetuation of this thought process to this day. Carry on, Marcus Williams.
Yes, sir. So, touching on what you had said, one of our members, she had said she had mentioned birth control, how that was. So we did give the example of Margaret Sanger. She opened the first birth control clinic back in 1916, and that was a form of eugenics to be able to control a certain population, because what people noticed and what was done and what you still see today is that where do you see these Planned Parenthoods at? Like what neighborhoods?
You see them in our neighborhoods. You see them in the urban core. And what she used specifically, she used the unlearned, ignorant preacher as and certain churches as a base to they were promoted that it was health care for women, but it's nothing more than abortion clinics. To this day, they advocate that it's health care, but it's an assassination lab. That's what it is. So it is essential. Marcus Garvey said this: a people who don't know their history is like a tree without roots. If we don't know our history, and in particular the land that we dwell in, American history, we'll perpetually fall into these snares and traps. Marcus Williams, carry on.
Yes, sir.
My people perish for the what? For the lack of knowledge.
Indeed.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have something in there?
They have a different name now. Well, it's a different group now.
Get the mic. Sorry. We'll get two next time. Yes, ma'am. If you can grab that bad boy. Is it, let's make sure it's turned on.
They have a different group out now that it's not Planned Parenthood. All they do is called Rachel's House, and all they do is do pregnancy tests and counsel with young ladies on if you're pregnant or if you happen to not be pregnant, and they counsel you on different kind of methods from not so you won't get pregnant, like conceptions and stuff, and contraceptives. And they also if you are pregnant, they help you with, vitamins where what
Prenatal care.
doctors, prenatal care, and all that, where you can go for teenage ladies and ladies who don't have insurance, and they point them to the right direction. Now they don't do any other things other than that. That's all they do. They don't do. They're not a place where you can go for a checkup and all that. You can go there, and they got them all over. They got them in Lee Summit. They got them in the city and different places. So I don't know. A lot of Planned Parenthoods are open. I think there's only one that's around here, and I think that the closest one is Wichita for Kansas
Okay,
City.
so let me get an
But I don't
understanding. Are you
understand.
saying this is an alternative from Planned Parenthood, or what are you saying?
No, it's not an alternative to Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood literally does all kind of stuff. You can go there and get abortions, checkups, and all that.
No.
Rachel House does not.
Yes, so Rachel House is not Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Okay, that's what I'm
And
trying
that's
to
a
get.
better place that you can go to that you don't if you don't have insurance.
Okay.
Okay.
So just
Very
sharing of resources.
Right.
A
Sharing
resource.
resources.
Got you. Perfect. Okay. So we did bring up Hitler already. You can just probably keep it down because we'll probably use it, the mic. Yeah, you can turn it off, but you can probably keep it out the holder because we'll probably use it. But we brought up Hitler already and how he was trying to create the so-called master race, and his concept of white, blonde-haired, blue-eyed master Nordic race that didn't just originate with Hitler, but how it started in the United States as well and was cultivated in California. So we brought that up. We also talked about the wars is taking dominion over the earth, so wars and rumors of wars. And part of that method is just the movies that we saw or that are out, that have been coming out over the years. We gave a lot of examples of movies that depict the end of the world or just like deadly viruses such as Resident Evil, I Am Legend, Zombieland, Contagion, Rise of Planet of the Apes. So a lot of different examples that goes through and essentially incites fear. I know there's so many examples of family members that I have who watch scary movies and stuff, and because of those scary movies, they have this like paranoia that they have with
Phobia.
Phobia that they have, and I believe those type of movies and just movies in general sometimes have that different type of spirit in them that can incite things and bring things to remembrance in a negative way.
What's particular about those movies, though, they all had the same concept that some man-made serum that was supposed to be for one purpose turned into this virus that plagued the whole world, where the world was suffering destruction because of the evil that men do. That was the common theme in all these movies, and now we're in this pandemic, and it seems to be of the same storyline of the movies that we saw prior to what's manifested now.
And then lastly, that was actually a good segue into as far as where we're at in the pandemic. Over the last like 30, 40 years, actually, there's just been an influx of viruses, diseases that came out, things such as anthrax, bird flu, swine flu,
Yes.
Ebola, mosquito-borne. I mean, a lot of these H1N1.
H1N1.
Yeah, that's swine flu. Yep.
The
Zika virus. Yep.
The Zika virus. SARS. Prior to that, in the 80s, we had the AIDS pandemic. And the thing that we're constantly told that these viruses have naturally evolved, but and any different view is considered you being a conspiracy beef, a buff. But as we examine history and as we go beyond the veil and begin to do research and check with certain doctors and researchers, come to find out that ever since 1952, when America dropped the atomic bomb and America became the #1 power in the world, all other countries been practicing chemical warfare, Agent Orange, anthrax. So for me, or for us, we don't believe that all these convenient viruses just came out the dirt or just came out of nowhere. So these are the things that we're trying to make the saints or anyone who has an ear to hear aware of, so they know to govern themselves and not fall for the okie doke. Marcus Williams, continue.
Yes, sir. So those are the diseases that that's where we left off on last week. And that brings us into where we're at this week as far as distractions. So what are some distractions that you see today? So I'm going to go through a few different points for today's lesson. The first point is, what are the methods of distractions in today's society? Second point is how we can prevent those distractions. And the third point is stepping out of the matrix. So I'll explain what that is once we get to that point, but I wanted to make sure we examine those
Sister
first.
Jamie, did you ever see the movie The Matrix? You seen it? A long time ago. You seen it? Right.
I'm going to come back to you, Dan.
Yeah.
And then,
We're going to check your memory.
all right, so going back into the first point, so what are some methods? So I'm actually posed that question to members here and even those online. What are some methods of distractions that you all see today in society? So this can be methods of distraction in regards to your work, productivity, distractions from just everyday life, from things you're trying to do.
Or as well as, what are distractions that you personally experience that you know that's hindering you from being productive, from being punctual, timely, or reaching your goals? What are some of the things that you know that robs you of time? And you don't get to plead the fifth. We need everybody talking.
Yep. I know everybody at some point has had something that has distracted them. So
TV, phones, internet.
So what
Gossip.
personally distracted you though?
TV. That's mainly mine is TV.
TV, okay, I can dig it. Any other takers?
I just wanted to add fear.
Fear?
Yes.
Yes.
Like from like this COVID thing.
Yes.
Just being out, trying to from going to work or going anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Just not wanting to get out.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's about one thing I can add.
I love that observation.
Yeah, most definitely.
For me, what's been a distraction in the last few months, I would like to say, is probably not only been the internet, like Facebook and stuff like that, but like those mental illnesses that try to come in, like anxiety,
Anxiety, yes.
depression.
Come on. Isn't that what we talked about?
And for me, that's what has been a distraction for me, because that fear creeps in through there. And it tries to open that door to where you are paralyzed.
Yes.
And the enemy tries to keep you from being productive,
Yep.
staying focused, and leaning on God.
Yes.
So that's what it's been for me. So it's very important that we have to read our Bibles and stay in the Word. So that's been a very big distraction for me. And so when I can't get to my Bible, I have to speak out the Word and just
Yes.
speak it out and just start going down the list with all the scriptures and verses that can pull me up out of that pit or pull me up out of that oppression
Yes.
from the enemy.
You sound like a soldier in the army of the Lord.
That's what I'm saying.
Soldier, warrior.
I'm glad you mentioned the word too, because that's something we're gonna revisit later on. So that was really good.
Let me say something real quick. Fear is the number one weapon of the enemy. Fear is the opposite of faith. It'll paralyze you. It's a neurotoxin that'll keep you from being mobile, from thinking straight. People are obese because of fear. People suffer anxiety and mental illnesses because of fear. The whole world stayed in their living room
Yeah.
because of fear. So we see that's one of the number one weapons that the enemy uses.
Yep.
You still got to make appointments to go to federal buildings. But boy, I wish I had time. We got videos to show where in North Dakota they never shut down.
Man.
They never shut down. And their numbers were told that they would have thousands of people that would be sick from the COVID, and it was like 6,000. So, but we'll talk about that later. Online, we have people that said media, social media, and Sister Fraser said they have a Planned Parenthood in Overland Park. Yes, they have Planned Parenthoods all over the place, but it's predominantly their strategy in planning Planned Parenthood was to deal with the unproductive, the unskillful, the people who they deemed that didn't have value. That was their strategic plan. They got Planned Parenthood because you got all kind of folk that'll go to Planned Parenthood, but it's predominantly an attack towards who they deem as minorities. Marcus Williams, continue.
I don't know how they took them out of the neighborhood because they're not here in the neighborhoods anymore. That's the only one we have. And I forgot about that until Helen said that.
Mama, can nobody hear what you're saying? She was going in.
Yo, I know.
Everybody online looking at us, look at you.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what you're saying.
I know. But what was basically said was that Cecilia was saying that there is a Planned Parenthood, just reiterating one in Overland Park, and there's another one that I can think of off of Troost. They closed that one?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
we had a movement, predominantly a lot of people, not just Republicans, but you had a lot of people in the changing of a guard as far as governors and mayors, that when we voted, if you pay attention to the votes, same-sex marriage was voted down, Planned Parenthood was voted down, but they implemented anyway. So, at the changing of guard, you've seen a lot of them decrease. But our whole point was, to understand a thing, you must understand the original intent. The original intent was to get rid of you and me and beautiful babies that's made in the image and the likeness of God with purpose and value, because the evil that men do, how people will perceive you as less than. And in Genesis 9, it says, "Thou shalt not shed the blood of man, for he bears the image of God." Marcus Williams, continue.
Yes, sir. So, all right. So, a lot of us had touched on already social media. So, there's actually technically 6 different methods of distraction when it deals with productivity that I'll go through. And this isn't an exhaustive list. There's some that was even said that's not on this list, but this is just something that are some of the main things in regards to productivity. So one, again, with social media. So on average, the average person wastes 3.2 hours on social media each day.
What?
3.2 hours. 3.2 hours.
How many hours in a day?
24.
24. So we spend, because one survey said 3.3 hours and 58 minutes was spent on media. And if we can just be real and transparent for a second, I've gone through seasons where I was trapped on the media. I'm supposed to be going online to study. I'm supposed to study for a message or something. And then a headline, R. Kelly's going to court. What are you going to court for? And Kim Kardashian divorced her husband. Oh, what's going? And you drift for 25 to 30 minutes away from what you intended to do, like a fish on the hook.
Yep.
And then when people have problems, like if you in a marriage or in a relationship where you should be dealing with them, I don't have to talk to you if I'm binging on the media. I don't have to deal with my kids if I'm binging on the media. So we have to think about it. 3 hours that you will never get back. Time is a commodity that has to be well spent. We spent 3 hours on the media surfing a great portion of it, foolishness. That's not bring edification to the mind nor our agenda. Talk to me.
Next one is texting, messaging, and Snapchatting.
Oh, no.
So this lumps in all of like the messaging services. I know for myself personally, I've got to the point to where I only talk to like, or text like maybe one person, and that even sometimes is enough. Because it gets to the point to where you text so much that it becomes a distraction. You have 30 minutes here of unproductivity because you're responding. You wait and see the little, if you have an iPhone, see the little bubbles that come up where they're responding, like already responding, and you feel the zing up on your phone or the vibration or the ting, whatever, and you start going again. And then so it takes time for when you're working on something and you're focusing on something, and then you step away from it.
I think texting is good for quick messages, but you got people that try to communicate by texting. And that's not good for me. I don't like that. And I don't care for people trying to make texting the universal method of communication. I'm old school because there's more to communication than just sound. There's body language. I can look at your countenance and see if I say something, even though you say, oh, no, I'm cool. And I'm like, you looking at me like this. I say, oh, I made you upset when I said that. So to be able to connect with people, it requires good communication. And if your predominant method of communicating is texting, and again, maybe that works for some people. That don't work for me, and I don't think that it's the best way of communicating. Real quick, when I worked at the mission, my supervisor said something. We had a little heated fellowship, and I didn't know if you sent a message in all caps, that was considered aggression.
Yeah.
I didn't know the language.
Yeah.
So he called me to the office. I don't appreciate you threatening me. I said, how under heaven did I threaten you, sir? You use all caps. I said, where's the rules to this junk, man? I went from talking on phones and all of a sudden to being dominated by emails. I don't know the rules to emails, but it was considered aggression because I use all caps. Yeah. But
So we're
it
getting
seemed
like we yell.
I went from manual labor. I don't know the office protocol. I went from manual labor to talking to folk to being introduced to the lingo of email predicate.
Yep. So,
Needless to say, he understood what I meant in person.
So that actually brings us to our next point is emails, or quote unquote urgent emails.
Yes.
So this can be in regards to emails as well as just like, again, other communication. Sometimes we try to prioritize messages that doesn't need to be prioritized. So that can be something that can take you away from productivity. I know for me, I've been in situations where, like Pastor Walker, I would be studying or working or something like that, and then somebody sent me a message that could have been something that they could have called about or sent something later, but you feel like since you heard the ding, since you felt the vibration, like, man, I got to answer it now because it's going to be on your mind and stuff, and it's like, man, I gotta go back to this mug or even an email thinking about, okay, what does this look like?
Then I think that these are not the number one. These are not the number one option in communication because God made us social people. Let's look at this in the spirit. A text is a different method of communicating to hold me over till I come into your presence. It cannot be the dominant method of communicating where this online dating has taken over communication. Can you really get to know someone, the depths of who they are, by chatting online and emailing and this old what they call it, catfishing profiles? What my man say? She said she was Janet Jackson. He pulled up and said, "You look like Freddie Jackson."
So for those who don't know what catfishing is,
yeah. I'm sorry, because you hooked me up to that game. Tell everybody, tell everybody what catfishing is.
So catfishing is whenever, because I didn't know what it was until I looked it up. They have a whole show about it actually. But catfishing is when an individual is posing as someone else that they're not, and then communicating with someone else and posing as that particular person, usually in a romantic type of way. So the goal is to either con that person or really just, there's a lot of different methods or reasons behind it. But at the end of the day, that person ends up being deceived because that person is not perceiving themselves as what they say they are.
They lying.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is, it's popular to lie. It's cool to be a deceiver. Now, for all you Bible students who study Bible, love the Lord, he heard my cry. Who was the father of lies?
Satan.
Who was the dude that deceived the whole world? So what would you say, what spirit is influencing people and making it popular to lie and deceive on a profile and say that you're something that you're not? I talked to dudes say I got a girl in Tanzania. Brother, you stay in Philly. I'm telling you, we're about to get married. I got my girl in Tanzania. You get over there and, well, one particular fella, he fell for the trap. They show a beautiful picture of this woman. She's phenomenal. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, how'd you get her? I met her online. That's my girl. I said, so when y'all gonna meet? She gonna come to the States.
Oh, man.
And then he said, well, for her to come to the States, she gets to get a visa, and the visa costs $500. I said, brother, that's the 42 fake with the option. Don't do it.
Or they get married.
Huh?
Or they get married so they can come over to the States.
Well, we were talking about the process before they even get married. We're talking about some of the snares and traps that the enemy uses to control people. And one of them is media. And the dude was deceived in thinking that the woman, the picture and who he was communicating online was really that person. And he sent her $500 for a visa. And I knew it was a trap, but he couldn't hear it because he was under a trance. He was under immoral hypnosis, thinking that what he saw online was real. So I waited a couple of weeks, and I said, hey, fella, what happened to your queen to be? Where's she at? And he said, oh, man, she said something happened. She need $200 more. I said, fella, listen to me.
Oh, my gosh.
I said, that's a snare, don't do it. Do you know he sent $200 more?
Give them that checking information. I know one.
Yeah. You said somebody gave out their checking information? Somebody they met online? Yeah.
Never seen a picture of the woman.
Yep.
These are called
Out of the States.
These are called methods of control through media. Marcus Williams, continue.
So going to the next example of deception is talking with coworkers. This can also be lumped with gossiping. So how is gossiping a distraction? Do we have any takers?
How is gossiping a distraction?
How can you be unproductive with gossiping?
And grab the mic. While you're grabbing the mic, I'm gonna give you a few scriptures. The scripture says, "In a multitude of words dwelleth sin." If you talk too much, eventually you're gonna lie. You're gonna fabricate something. You're gonna add a little extra to the story. And you don't have. The Bible talks about the tongue is deadly, and in James 4 it talks about how deadly the tongue is. If you don't have any temperance over your tongue, you will get in trouble. Talk back.
So again, the question is, how is gossiping a distraction?
Gossiping isn't a distraction because it can create enemies.
Yes. Yes. Gossiping is a distraction because it can create enemies. Gossiping is fun when you're the center of attraction. It's not fun when you get back to that person, is it?
Nope.
And they outside with their shoes off. Come on, Cletus.
With a Vaseline.
Come on outside, Bethel.
Exactly. So, I'll just make sure. To add on that, gossiping can create enemies is what was said. Also, gossiping can take you away, just like we had mentioned before, with methods of communicating can take you away from what you're doing. So it can make you unproductive because imagine you being at work and you have somebody, hey, guess what happened?
What? You done turn your PC off? Just tell me what's going on.
That's what I'm saying. Your laptop going on screen, say remote, you talking so long. And I'm like, man. So you're missing what you're supposed to be doing. And so gossiping can be a distraction and take you away from that. We're going to move on so that way we can make sure we're expedient with time. Multitasking. So the human brain was not wired for multitasking. That is, I don't care what y'all say. It's not, I mean, just because you can do it, just because you can do it, that doesn't mean it's going to be productive.
Right.
So anybody can multitask, but that doesn't mean it's productive. So in other words, just because it's good, that doesn't mean it's right. In other words, and not acting like multitasking isn't always necessary because you have to do it in some cases. However, that can be a method of distraction because if you're multitasking, you're not able to focus on the particular task or a certain task.
Especially if you do that all the time. I think it's a season where you have to multitask because certain things is happening that you have to take care of business.
Exactly.
But when you make it a lifestyle, thinking that you can juggle all these plates, you do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a whole bunch of nothing. So I feel you on that.
Most definitely. Yeah, you got to get the mic on that one. Did you have to? She had a whole setup. There we go.
Yeah,
and also you have certain jobs like receptionists who have to multitask because they are up front and then they have to answer phones, they have to do mailings, and they can do that and be productive at it. So it's not like, just like Marcus said, there's certain jobs that you have to multitask. But when it's going, ministering, teaching, that's too much on one, but I got you on that one.
Most definitely, I would agree. I mean, some things in some cases you have to when it comes to your job. But yeah, when it's your lifestyle that you multitask, that's when it becomes very unproductive.
But even with the job, even when doing that job, it's a lot of stress.
Yep.
It is.
It's a lot of stress. It brings anxiety. A lot of times on those jobs, a lot of men or women, they gain weight because it's a lot of pressure to multitask all the time.
Yep.
You know, it's very intense. People are rude. Where's my paper? Blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So being in an environment where you have to multitask can become a hostile environment. So I'm rolling with you.
Yeah, most definitely.
I just want to say that I believe that multitasking is best friends with time.
Yep.
Because time, like if you let time control you, sometimes we feel like we have to do a lot of things. We have to get a lot of stuff done in time. But when time dominates us, then that anxiety kicks in, like you were saying, and we're unproductive. We mess up a lot of things too. We're rushing. You know, the anxiety kicks in. So I believe that time and multitasking, they are best friends. Because when time controls you, then you're busy all the time. You don't have time for God.
Yep.
You don't have time to pray. You don't have time to get in the Word.
Yep.
You don't have time to do the things that, to focus on what is important.
What's most important, so that you don't get stuck in multitasking, you need to prioritize your business. You can have Marcus talks about time management. I could get up in the morning, I get my meditation. I might get up in the morning and do my jog and all that because I know I got to get to work. So it's about managing. Most time, if you stay in multitask mode, it's because you put off what you're supposed to do or you don't respect time. Now I got to do all this at once. So I'm rolling with the youngster. Talk back.
Most definitely. And then lastly is junk food. So I'm going to roll through this one and go to the next point so that way it can be expedient with time. Junk food is a distraction because when you start to use junk food as a matter of convenience, the effects of what it does on your body can be a distraction. Like we alluded to earlier, when you start to be under stress, you constantly multitasking. You constantly don't have time to do certain things. You start to have a matter of convenience where I'll just go to the McDonald's real quick and get a sandwich. I'll just go to so
I'm busy.
Yeah,
I do something else.
Exactly. So that's a distraction because you're using that energy to do something that's unproductive because it's not going to provide any help to your benefit to your body.
Let me add to that real quick.
Yes, sir.
Some of the top CEOs of the companies around the world that make billions of dollars, they're dedicated to their craft or their position. Most of these guys don't know their kids, have troubles in their marriage. That's why they have women on the side, because they're so dedicated to this business, multi-billion-dollar business. And they have stress. These cats got to get stents in their hearts unless they work out on it. But the bottom line is that when you're so focused on business and multitasking, you lose out on the kids, you lose out on the wife, you lose out on family, all in the pursuit of getting this money or whatever you're trying to achieve. So, and then always eating out.
Yep.
I mean, I at the job, we had a guy that was, I'm trying to do right. I don't want to say his name so bad. I'm doing right. And trying to be something, he stayed at the school ordering food, Grubhub and all that. And after a while, started to look like a love seat, started to look like a beat up couch because he was trying to do all these things that was out of order.
And then just the last thing to add on that is how artificial sugars heighten up your energy and then eventually provide a crash, which also makes you unproductive as well.
Like the energy drinks.
Exactly. So those were some of the examples. Again, this wasn't an exhaustive list of distractions. But it's one thing to know those distractions, but how do you actually prevent those distractions? So I'm going to quickly go through some of the things. So I'm going to touch each point, social media, the ones we just went through. So with social media, what you can potentially do with that is delete all your social media apps. You can either delete them or you can categorize them. What I've actually did was categorize them because I have an iPhone to be what is just in one location in your phone. So that way, when you slide to it, if you have like a touchscreen phone, then it can be somewhere out of sight, out of mind. Another way, again, is just deleting them, taking a break from them. There was a season in my life where I spent 8 months off of social media. And during that time, I was a lot more clear-minded. I wasn't easily distracted because there's times where I'm just like in the car and I just literally just out of involuntary motion, I just kind of put my phone out and just start searching and just looking through.
It turns to a habit. Yeah, you just idly just.
And you just because you're bored, exactly. So you just pull your phone out, and then you 5 minutes in, you're like, what am I doing? Like, I spent like a certain amount of time looking at this. So sometimes that's needed is stepping away from social media for a while, and whether you need to communicate that to people, do what you need to do. Disabling notifications so you don't get dings from social media is another method you can use as well.
This is what, man, we got 5 minutes left. You got all this dope information. You trying to run through it like a track race.
I know.
It's not going to work, brother.
I know it's not.
It's too much information. My mind is... Elder Williams, or Coach Williams, I just talked with him, and he was like, because, see, you can indulge in certain things so much till it make you sick.
Mm-hmm.
I got sick of people showing out on Facebook, telling all their business. Get a friend. Call your cousin. I don't need to know all your business on Facebook. You done listen your whole life. We about to go to Hawaii, and I'm packing all my stuff up, and I took the dog to the Humane Society and all that. You done told everybody in America to kick in your house. I'm gonna be gone for 3 months and wonder why everything gone. You don't tell all your business on Facebook.
Yep.
And just some of the vanity and people being fake. If you're a real one, it'll get on your nerves. So Coach Williams talked about, he said, man, if it's not the word, if it's not something of importance, I turned off my notifications. He said some folks that was just done on purpose, I deleted their Facebook profile.
Yep.
And then he's at the point, he said, man, I don't even have to be on Facebook. I want to be on something that's productive because if you've been robbed by media, if a media outlet has turned into an idol to where even we went through seasons in my house. No one talks. We go out to eat and got crisis in your life, and you've conditioned to bow down to your phone or your TV. There's no communication. Wait till the last minute. You know, my car broke down. I need some white. My car broke down. When it happened? 3 weeks ago. We stayed in the same house. Why you ain't say nothing? Because you've been on this here.
Yep.
So that is, when we talk about distractions, to me, this is the -- public enemy in the world.
Yep.
All your business is on here. All your information is on here. It's to the point now, when you go to the chiropractor, people that's in their 30s already now is losing the curve in their neck.
Because they always.
Because how they do it?
And getting carpal tunnel in their hands and stuff.
Yeah, come on, man.
Constantly, constantly rolling. I'm like I had to strengthen my hand out and stuff because I'm like, what is going? I'm in my 20s, man. How am I getting early on? I'm looking up symptoms and stuff. Early onset carpal tunnel. Hold on, man. Start getting stretching things and stuff in my hands and stuff. I'm like, nah.
Oh, watch this. Watch this. I'm at the Home Depot. Somebody see me. They don't say nothing to me. They wait till they get on Facebook. Hey, man, I seen you at the Home Depot using aisle 19. Well, why ain't say nothing?
Yeah.
Because it'll rob you of your communication skills, your social skills, and you'll become a zombie. Do it again, Marcus. So I believe that media is the #1 public enemy that has brought some blocks in the church and family and so on. So what? Cell phones. This is the device.
I know, but they also work on them.
What you mean?
Attorneys work from their phones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Send out letters.
Yes. Come on. You Zoom on the phone. You work on the phone. You communicate on the phone. You got some folks are pastors in the kingdom of darkness, and they have the ministry of nasty, and they rock porn on the phone, and they look for little kids with little pedophiles on the phone. They do everything on the phone.
Yep.
And if whatever we do, the Bible says we're supposed to do it as unto the Lord. Coach Williams said they hell phones, not cell phones. Turn down. I'm turned up. Let me turn down. They ain't cell phones, they hell phones.
I like that. So yeah, that's we really gotta think about that. And one exercise you can potentially go through is how can you use your phone in a way that's productive? How can you use social media in a productive way? how can you use your texting in a productive way? And that's the main kind of points to solidify, without having to go through all of them, how to prevent those distractions, how you can do it in a productive way. I wanted to touch on real quick, stepping out of the matrix. So this is where we bring in the word to back up what was also discussed. So stepping out of the matrix, I use this as an example of the Matrix. If you don't know what or haven't seen the Matrix is a movie that talked about a world that was basically in a system. And the main character, Neo, he gets out of that system by getting pulled out. And then those people who are in that system don't even know they're in a system. They're in the everyday world and life like we're in right now. And Neo, the main character, gets put out of that system, and he sees what the world really is. And he's able to see, okay, this is what the world is. The machines are starting to take over. They're trying to take over basically and take over the world. So he's seeing the world like it really is. So stepping out of the matrix, just going off of that, is basically getting out of this system of distractions. How can you get out of those distractions? How can you step out of the matrix? How can you get out of the system of distractions? So one way you can do that is getting in the Word. It was mentioned earlier of having scriptures that you can pull from and that you can use to fight back those symptoms of, or that anxiety, depression, things that you're going through. So you can use that. And it's really just a mindset that God wants you to succeed. The example of that is if you're a football coach, you're not going to be coaching your players to lose the game. It doesn't make sense at all. So, and then same thing if you're a parent. If you're a parent, a good parent, then you don't want your child to fail. You're not going to let them. You're not going to let them walk into a ditch as you see it and just walk through like, oh, I mean, you should have saw it. I mean, you're not just going to let them be in the ditch and stuff. So same thing with God. God predestined you to be great. He predestined you to do what your purpose in life is. And there's a lot of scriptures that goes through that. I'm going to go through a few quick ones real quick. John 15:6, it says, "You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you would go and bear fruit, and that your fruit would remain, so that whatever you ask of the Father in my name, he may give to you." So that's powerful in itself right there. Another one, 1 Thessalonians 1:4, "Knowing, brethren, beloved by God, his choice is you." Jeremiah 1:5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you, and before you were born, I consecrated you. I have appointed you to be a prophet of the nations." So these are just a few scriptures that goes through how God predestined you to do something great. He didn't just predestine you to look at your phone and be distracted and be in the systems of the world. He predestined you to do something great. So the second thing you can do with stepping out of the matrix is recognizing your faults of self-reflection. So, or self-reflection. So if you stink, you got to know you stink. So you got to smell yourself. You got to review and see, okay, what are some things I can do better? A scripture or example of that is Psalms 139:23-24. It says, "Search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting." So you got to ask God to search you, and also recognize some things for yourself to see what are some things that are offensive to God, but also things that are distracting you. There's other scriptures as well. So some methods of self-reflection that you could potentially use is use the word as a mirror. So using a word, you can look at Psalms 1, chapter 1. It explains how in his law does he meditate day and night. So being able to meditate in the word and being able to do that. So journaling is another one, but those are just a few other examples that we've had. But just take that time to self-reflect and see how you can step out of the matrix and be able to see or step away from those distractions. But thank you so much again for your time. I appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening, a wonderful night, and we'll see you next time. God bless.